Hello everybody. There has been a request that I create a sample application, a short introductory sample application on how to connect to an Access database using Delphi 2010, the one that will be used as part of the CAPS curriculum provided free by Embarcadero for schools, state-run schools. And what I'm going to do, and what I've done so far, I've created a file new VCL Forms application, and then the only thing I've done, I clicked on Saved Project As, and I saved the project as a DB project, and the form that's associated to my unit, the unit that's associated here to the form, I've saved as FRMDB example unit. So that is what I've done up until this far. So what we're going to do is that I can go, and I am allowed to add some controls over here and some components that will allow me data access. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rather add a separate unit and a separate container form to allocate and to apply and to place my DB controls on. The reason I'm doing that, because then those components are more easily reusable in other forms. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say File, New, then I'm going to go to Other, and then very important, I'm going to go to Delphi Files, and you will see there is a data module over there. So if I click on OK, you will see the compiler includes another unit. This is a data module. It's a non-visible container, alright, and I'm just going to save it as well. So I'm going to save it, and I always call mine DM. You can call it whatever you would like to, but I know data module then. And now what we need to do, after we've saved it, I just need to go, and there's the name of my unit, and I'm going to say, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to say, as part of my form application, it must also be included as part of the users. So I'm importing the unit to be part of this main form as well. Good, the main form unit, so that it's available for me for use. So now, if this is my data module unit, so what I'm going to go to my tool palette, and you will see there is a DB Go tab there, or expansion that I could have. And then what I'm going to select over there is I'm going to add an ADO connection. Alright, and then the ADO connection is a component that we add that specifies where our database resides and provides us with some connection settings. So here in the property or object inspector, I'm going to go to the connection string property over there, and I'm going to click on the ellipsis button. Now, very important, for this example that I am building, I'm running the example in a virtual machine, this Delphi 2010. I don't have Access installed as part of it, so I will not be able to connect to, for instance, an Access 2010 database. But if I had Access installed, the newer versions of Access, I will have the driver available. So if I click on Build, you will see if it's Access 2010, it will be Microsoft Office ACE. There will be an ACE driver. I'm currently using the Jet 4 driver. Click on Next, and then I need to specify where does my database reside. If it was an Access 2012 or 2007 or 2010 database, then I will specify the path over here. For instance, the path name of where my Access database resides. For instance, C app data, and then the name of my database, ACCCDB for that case. But I don't have that now. All that I have, if you have a look on what I have installed over here, is on my computer, on my shared drive over here, there's an MDB database that I could use, a coffee shop database. So I can use that specific one. So if I click there on Open and test my connection, it tells me the test connection succeeded. That's very important. So the path will also be, if it was an Access 2000, it will be ACCDB. So then we click on OK over there. It gives us the idea of the connection string, and then we place that on there. Alright, so then we're going to add another important control. It's a TADO table, also underneath DBGo, ADO table, because this table is going to refer to one of the tables in my Access database. So then what I need to do is I need to say ADO table there, and I'm going to say it has a connection 1. So it's going to point to that over there, that connection component that we've just added. We could have also set up the connection string over here, but later on, if we add more than one table, it's easier to point them all to one location than having to set the connection string for each component that we add. So now if we go, very important, there is a property here on the table or on the ADO connection which says login prompt. I don't want to log in, so I'm just going to set that to false. And then I'm going to go to ADO table over there, and I'm going to say the table name that I would like to connect to, and here you can see is the tables that's available within even the query as a data set. So I'm going to create or select the client's database over there, and then very important, we're also going to add one additional small component called an ADO or a data source component. Alright, so the data source lies under the data access tab there. So if we add that, then we're almost set and done. Very important when we work with controls, and we're going to have on our form controls that's going to speak to the table. They don't ever speak to the table directly. They rather speak to and work via a data source that is connected to a table. So on my data source, I'm just going to say it's going to be ADO table 1, the data set. Now a data set is an important concept. It basically refers to the data that is fetched from the table and placed into the memory. So if we're this far, we can just save, and then we can go back to our form. And on our form, if we press F12, it brings it up. We would like to now go and add a DB grid component. Alright, and that's a data one of the data controls that we could draw over. Data controls relied over here. In a newer version, there's something called live bindings. And we will talk about that in a separate video that we could use, also with the idea of using a client data set. So I'm just expanding my DB grid over there, and then I'm going to add a DB navigator control as well, alright, to my form. So we have it like that. And now what we're going to do, we just need to say that this DB grid, it must be connected to a specific data set. And in order to connect it to a specific data set, we need to say it must be connected to a data source. And there we go. Datamodule 1, data source 1. We could have given it nice names, but that's not the idea now. We will not give it nice names. For this example purpose, I will do another example for that. And then what we're going to do is this navigator also talks to a data source. Just to repeat, if we work with controls, the controls never speak to the table directly. They always speak with an in-between layer, and that's the data source. The data source has a data set there, that's the ADO table, and the ADO table refers to a table within my Access database, there the client's database, or the client's table. Alright, good. So now that we've done that, the only thing that we need to do is we need to make our table active, and we can do it in code or do it on the object inspector, but let's for this example do it in the code. So we're going to say on the events, when the form is shown, on show, we're going to say Datamodule 1, we should have given it a nice name, ADO table 1 dot open. So we invoke the open method there, and now if we save our application and we run our application, then we have over here in my DB grid the data relating to some clients there. There's some nice values that we have, and if we have a look, we could use the navigator to scroll through the data. Alright, so there is a typical example. What we can do now, for instance, we can go and we can change one of the names, like for instance Govender Vini Govender, or Frost Michael Frost, and Chetty Derek. So we're allowed to edit the data. So let's say it's Michael Frosty. If we then click on post, the data is saved. But now this is not what the caps entail. What the caps entail is that we had used to use this data set in order to solve certain problems, and for that we were going to work in a second part of the video. But this was just how to get access, and now we could work with the data that's provided for us here in the DB Navigator and using the DB Navigator and the DB Grid control.